Hi everyone, my name is Andrea and welcome to Journey with Andy. I'm a Christian, I'm a daughter, I'm a nurse, I'm a sister, I'm a cousin, I'm a granddaughter, I'm a friend. On December 31st, 2020, my life changed. In these future videos, I hope to explain the chain of events that occurred to help get me to this point. Even though I didn't feel the effects of that change until April of 2021, December 31st, 2020 started me on this journey. I'll be talking about topics from my work life to my personal life and how the after effects of COVID are affected me in a very tangible way on a daily basis. Hopefully in some future videos I can, talk about some of my personal health struggles and my journey with PCOS. But for this particular video, starting off, I'll be talking about COVID and how the journey that brought me to where we are now. And I'll eventually get to what's going on in my life on a daily basis to bring me to this point to make me want to start a YouTube channel. But I'm just going to jump right in and start with this. So I'm just going to jump right into part one of this video. It all started a few days before December the 31st. I got a phone call from my aunt where she said, hey, I got a phone call from our cousin, and she said, we were down there with Paul, which is what we call my granddad, a few days ago over the weekend, and we've all tested positive for COVID. And I just want to give you a heads up, you may want to get him tested. I took a deep breath. I said, okay, is he showing any symptoms right now? She said, no. I said, okay, well, as of right now, we're okay. He's not showing any symptoms. We'll just keep an eye on it and see how he does over the next few days. Hopefully he won't start showing any symptoms and he won't need to get tested. He can just quarantine at home. Crisis averted. So I thought. Maybe the next day or next day or two, he started showing symptoms. He started vomiting and not feeling well, and so that day my aunt called his primary care physician, and she'd been on the phone with his nurse that day, and the nurse just eventually said, hey, I think he needs to be seen at the ER. And so my aunt called me and said, hey, the nurse said she thinks Paul needs to be seen at the ER. I'm taking him to the hospital. I said, okay, I'll meet you there. This was December the 31st. And the hospital she took him to, I worked there as a nurse. And also his primary care physician has privileges there. So it was just a blessing that I worked there as well, because when she got him there, she got him checked in, but then she had to come back out because they weren't allowing visitors in at the time. So we waited outside, but I was able to call in to get, little updates here and there on how he was doing, because I knew some of the nurses there. So at one point, they told us he's possibly going to be discharged to home, and then, he can just quarantine at home. And we were like, okay, great. A little bit later, we got a call and said, hey, we're going to do this test. It's basically where they just walk the patient down the hallway, and if their O2 stats drop below 90, then they will be admitted to the hospital. So he did the test, and his O2 stats did drop below 90. And around the same time, some of his lab work came back, and his liver enzymes were about 5 to 6 times the normal limit. And studies have shown that COVID does affect the liver enzymes, so them being elevated wasn't such a surprise, but the extent that they were elevated, or how high they were, was a surprise. And then part of that could have been too because he's somewhat of a heavy drinker, or he was a heavy drinker. And so he was admitted to the COVID unit. So my aunt, her being the one that handles all his medical and everything like that, she was chatting with the nurses on a daily basis. And when they had time, she would FaceTime with them. And, she would do screenshots and send them to me. It's like, hey, he just looks so confused, and it's not really focusing on, the screen, or, He's just kind of like looking up in the air, that type of thing. He was just really getting confused as the days went on. And yes, I work at that hospital, but I wasn't able to go on the COVID unit because I work in labor and delivery. So I didn't want to go on COVID unit and then come back and expose my patients. So she, you know, would continue to talk to him on a daily basis, and it seemed like he was getting a little better. He was receiving treatment, and the day came where he was supposed to be discharged from the hospital. On the day of discharge, they wanted us to allow him to go to rehab for 21 days because he was weak from being in the hospital so long, from just COVID itself, and he was having shortness of breath on exertion, so he just needed to go to rehab to recover some of his strength. So that was January 20th, 2021. It was another day that further cemented this journey, this path that I'm on now, to get me to the point where we are. And we'll get to that in future videos. But this next segment, the day of January 20th, 2021, will be in part 2 of the video. And I will say with that portion is partially not my story to tell. So eventually I hope to, in future videos, to bring in persons involved with that day, just to hear the story from their perspective. I'll be giving it from my perspective in part 2 of the video, but to hear it from them, the people who actually experienced what was happening. Just stay tuned. Look out for part 2 coming soon. I'm not sure how soon I'll post that video, but don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you'll know when future videos are posted. You won't miss out on them. Right now I don't have a particular scheduled time for when I'll be posting videos, but the more videos I get, the more consistent I'll be in posting them. So don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell for future videos. Thank you.